How many hearts have you broken with those great big beautiful eyes? Those great big beautiful eyes that tell such beautiful lies.
How many times have you kissed somebody like you kissed me then? I don't.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and all ships at sea. We interrupt this broadcast to bring you an important message from the Prepared Mind Network.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. Jim here out at the beautiful, luxurious, glorious RMZ. And woo, we think it's hot here. I've heard it is extremely hot in Texas, where I'm not at. Anyways, welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. Hit subscribe, folks, if you're on YouTube. I guess if you're on BitChute or Rumble or any of those other places as well. But if you want to, folks, just be a member. Go to the preparedmind.club or subscribestar.com. Look up the Prepared Mind. Sign up. $2 a month, 7 cents a day. Gets you on live Monday through Friday. Today's Thursday. So we're going to do 30 minutes of monologue from this chair right here. And then we'll do your questions at the inner circle. So let's get to it. What do we got going on out there, everyone? SHTF, right? Shit has hit the fan. How bad is it? Let's talk about it. We've been talking about, all of us have been talking about sharing behind the scenes, in front of the scenes, what is going on in Russia? What is going on in Ukraine? What is happening, folks, with the Wagner Group? That's right, the Russian mercenary, the private military contractor. Mercenaries, death for hire. Well, don't worry, the United States has its own as well. But the Russian one, it has been effectively fighting as a for-profit, a for-profit group. It has been kicking the shit out of NATO-trained troops, NATO-supplied troops, U.S.-trained troops, U.S.-supplied intelligence, U.S.-supplied data. Whoops. Getting their asses kicked by a bunch of mercs. Well, a lot of stuff happened last week, right? We had Prigozhin disappear, the leader of the Wagner Group, and apparently he's been exiled to Belarus. And most of the Wagner Group, the Russian mercenaries, have been, shall we say, absorbed, reallocated, distributed, dispersed, combined with regular Russian forces. Quite an interesting thing here. Was it a coup? Was it a half-assed coup? We don't know the truth. We'll never get the truth because I'm getting the story, from my jungly desk. I'm getting all kinds of intel. But what we know for sure is the United States paid for something that they didn't get. Or maybe they got paid what they are deserved, what they earned. Still, the complaint and thought was that, if the leader of the Wagner Group has been sent into Belarus, perhaps he's going to command an attack from there. So what happened today? Well, folks, a Russian missile struck the city of Kramatorsk, Ukraine. And did they kill a bunch of civilians? No, they did not. Unlike Ukraine, which likes to launch missiles into Russian civilian neighborhoods and cities, as well as blowing up civilian infrastructure and trying to destroy nuclear power facilities with artillery barrages. That's right, folks, the Ukrainians tried that shit. Well, the Russians, when they hit, they reportedly killed dozens of Ukraine military officers, military soldiers, and as many as 20 NATO mercenaries or guns for hire who come from NATO countries. So how is it that Russia found out there were so many officers and mercs in one location in the city of Kramatorsk. Pardon my French for not pronouncing that properly, but it is one of those Eastern European cities. At least it has 3 vowels to help us pronounce it. Anyways, the point is, folks, Russia is striking back. They're putting the hurt inside of Ukraine, and they're putting the hurt on military. If this continues to happen, Russia is going to be forced to have a good laugh as Ukraine is forced to have military meetings via Zoom so that nobody's in the same room together. This could also, folks, be an indicator that we've got a whole lot of SHTF and World War III ramifications, as well as escalations occurring in the great state, or wait, no, not the great state. How about the most corrupted state on the planet, Ukraine? Woo, what a mess. Russian missile strike. I wonder if Russia has any more missiles. We keep supposing hear that Russia's running out of ammo, running out of missiles. Folks, don't believe anything a Russian tells you when they try telling you how strong their troops are, how their missiles are. Anyways, on other Ukraine news, folks, I want to talk about Hunter Biden. Apparently, he paid for prostitutes, action at sex clubs, and he deducted them from his taxes while on foreign business trips. Well, it's got to be foreign. I mean, has the tax code really changed that much domestically? I didn't know that the tax code in Ukraine and other countries allowed you to deduct BJs and naked bum slaps. Why is this guy not locked up in prison? Why is Joe Biden not being impeached? Oh, that's right. Kevin McCarthy. I hate to use this phrase to describe him, but it's his assignment. Speaker of the House has said now is not the time to discuss impeachment. Well, if now isn't the time, when is? What does he have to do? Does he have to come out and say that he's committed and organized voter fraud? I mean, if he came out and said that, would that be enough? Would that be convincing?
We have put together, I think, the most extensive and inclusive voter fraud organization in the history of American politics.
Well, okay, well, he just admitted that. Wow, folks. All right, continuing with SHTF and disgraceful actions from Democrats, the state of decorum that comes from a Democrat, their mouths, is just absolutely awful. A Democrat state senator says this, folks, on the floor of the Senate, says, fuck the suburbs. Yeah, fuck the suburbs. That's it. From the Senate floor. What does that mean when you say fuck the suburbs? Does that mean burn, loot, and murder? Is this state senator, is she encouraging violence? It's just an absolute disgrace of a human being. An absolute disgrace. Let me give you a little bit more from Dumbocrat Senator Johnson. She told her, I guess, other, filthy Democrats, fuck the suburbs. Why? You might want to know. Because they don't know a gall darn thing about how life is in the city. So because a person doesn't know about life in the city, we have to say, fuck them. Perhaps people in the suburbs should say, well, fuck the ghettos, because they don't know a damn thing about the suburbs, where you have to have a job to pay taxes and property taxes and car taxes and taxes on everything in order to help pay for everyone in the ghetto. Everyone thinks everyone else is living the high life. Even Joe Biden seems to have a limited grasp on reality, wouldn't you know? Right? I mean, get this. From a man who is not a normal president, Joe Biden attacked the Supreme Court and says, this is not a normal court. Really, Joe, really. When you get something coming from a guy like Joe, we're supposed to believe and take him at his word and go, wow, that's incredible. What a great insight you have there, Joe. I didn't know that this court isn't normal. I'll tell you what's not normal about this court, folks, is that even though it's loaded with more conservatives, getting a conservative decision out of it almost takes an act of God, if not an act of Congress, if they had any jurisdiction. It's not a normal court. It is weighed down with turncoat, folks, meaning conservatives who really aren't conservative. But in this case, in this particular case, the Supreme Court has ruled that racial-based colleges, they take SAT scores, they take applications for attendance, and they determine who is and who will not be allowed in. And they have a system of scoring. And they want to keep certain races out, and they want to bring certain races in. Right? That is discrimination. Discrimination, absolute discrimination. Well, the Supreme Court held that discrimination is wrong. No shit. After all the fights in the 1960s, after Martin Luther King Jr., an African American, had his great speeches where, and one of them, which I love to quote, is, judge not by the color of your skin, but to be judged by the content of your character. We're still having skin color qualifications, except now the foot is on the other hand and the shoe is tied in a bow knot. Yeah, that doesn't make a lick of freaking sense. Neither has the actions taken by these college admission boards. Since when does an admission board ask to see how tan you are and then say, well, you've got a terrific tan. We're going to let you right in because you are black. But you, smart other people, cannot come in because you're white. That's discrimination. It's every bit as wrong. And discrimination based on a majority's belief system is also wrong because it is more of an equality and a just concept. It is a moral concept, right? In other words, it's immoral to hold back someone else based on how they look, right? How about this? How about gender equality? Are we seeing admissions lean in favor of one gender over another? What about religious qualifications? I'll tell you what, folks, we should not be allowing students into our universities from other nations. And if I were from another nation, I don't know if I would want my child or my nation's better students to be going to American universities where they're just going to get their brains removed and replaced with a bowl of warm mush. Anyways, folks, it has hit the fan and it continues. It continues. Harvard is one of the losing universities in this, folks, where the Supreme Court said, you know what? You shouldn't be allowed to use race. It's a violation of the Equal Rights Act. Yeah, no shit. I've been hearing this argument and making it since as early as 1986, when I was a sophomore in high school and started taking civics and government classes. I was like, discrimination, it shouldn't be against anybody and for anybody. Anyways, let us continue. Harvard, who lost in this case against an Asian male American, right? He wins. The dude had like a 1560 score. He had a 1560 on his college score, his admission score. Incredible number. And he's been rejected by like 6 universities because he's Asian. In other words, it's not that he was allowed into a university because of some favoritism, but he was denied entrance into a college, not because of his grades or his lack of aptitude, but because, right, he was Asian, and they have too many Asians. Anyways, Harvard says, who gives a fuck? It's going to use college application essays to continue its racial discrimination. Now here we go. I mean, what this goes all the way back to Back to the Future. What are you going to start paying people from the ghetto? Shoot them $100 to have them write out an essay using ghetto language. Is there going to be a way where you can like type in your essay, your please admit me to your college essay, and then run it through a computer to turn it into complete and total garbage and horseshit, so that the people in the college go, oh yeah, this is the type of person we want in our university. Looks like they got an IQ of about 92, right? Just smart enough to get out of high school. I mean, seriously. But if you put your name down on there, and your name is, I don't want to sound like a racist. I don't know what some good Asian names are. Kim Jong-un, right? When they see that, are they going to know that that person is Asian? What if someone identifies as another name when they ask a college admission boards to come in? Do they get to show up and say, yeah, that was me that day, but I changed my name because I'm fluid that way? We have so much retarded stuff, folks, but get this, wokeness rejects authority. And if woke rejects authority, in other words, it claims it's superior to authority, it's demanding that its supremacy be allowed. And I want to ask you, are you ready to fight over this idea? And let me go, I'll take it a little further even, folks. What happens if white people become minorities, or rather share minority status? That there's just as many Hispanics, blacks, or Asians as whites. What do we do then? Literally, what do we do? Do we continue to punish whites even though they're not the majority anymore? What if they're just another minority amongst minorities? See, a majority means 51% or more of the overall population. Which cracks me up, because I believe better than 50% of the white population is suffering from race guilt, right? So I think that a majority of Republicans are racially based in other basketball courts, if you will. That our party truly is diverse. As diverse as the Democrat Party. I don't know. Shit. Here we are. Now, where do we go from here, folks? What do you want to talk about? Go ahead and put your comments into the questions, thoughts, ideas into the comment section. Jolene, man, they're in the house. They're ready to go. Ready to go with your questions. I've got, another 10, 11 minutes to talk about what interests me today. And this was a big one. In Idaho, the Republicans have unanimously... One second, I needed a little more drink here. Ooh, that's good. In Idaho, Republicans have unanimously passed a resolution asking for the abolition, the removal, destruction, defunding of the corrupt Federal Bureau of Investigation if it cannot be reformed. Once they realize that it cannot be reformed, and they've concluded that, it just needs to be demanded that it be abolished from the state. You see, Idaho can't do anything outside of its borders. Can't do anything outside of its borders, but it can abolish it within its borders, and it can abolish federal or government, U.S. government buildings, properties. Why not? Right? Who is supreme? Idaho, maybe up on the border with Canada, it's got a border about that wide on most maps. I guess the federal government should be up there defending the border against illegal Canadians trying to come across. But beyond that, what authority constitutionally does the federal government have in Idaho? And I would just love to have these discussions with somebody. How needed and necessary is the federal government? All I see from them is them getting in the way, but especially the FBI. Now, let's say the federal government has the authority to buy property within a state. Does the state have a right to tax that property because it's within its geographical boundary? Well, the federal government likes to pretend that any ground that it occupies is therefore its and therefore sovereign and superior to any state that it might lie within. So, okay, federal agents are not allowed to leave, right, that ground. You got to have a helicopter come and pick you up, right? In other words, the sheriffs could run every single last federal agent out of the state and not allow them back in. Land at the airport, put them right back on the fucking plane. Right? You stay on the federal territory that's regulated by the Federal Aviation Administration. We have so much of this overlapping jurisdiction. We don't need the FBI, folks. In fact, name one thing they've done that a state police agency couldn't do for themselves. In other words, folks, Idaho's pissed off and they're tired of this bullshit. They're so tired of it, folks, that politicians who are out there sticking their hand out, begging for money so they can be elected to office, they're not worried about getting elected to office. What they're worried about at this point now is what the federal government's doing in their state, and they're sick and tired of hearing about it. They're sick and tired of hearing about all the crimes committed by the FBI, all the violations of their citizens' rights. You see, because you keep writing, texting, calling, sending messages into your state and federal elected representatives' offices, guess what? It's having an effect. They're hearing about it, and they're tired of hearing about it, and they want to get rid of these cretins. It's being brought to their attention. If you didn't tell them, they wouldn't know because they're so busy looking for campaign funds that they don't go looking to see what the federal government's doing on their property in their state. Well, here we are, folks. We're getting closer to secession. We're getting closer to a national divorce. We're getting closer to a battle between state sovereignty and United States government control. Remember, folks, in Washington, D.C., this tiny little piece of shit property called Washington, D.C., it's not a state. How can it control so much of the rest of the United States of America and the world? Think about it. When the King of England 250 years ago had an empire that the sun never set on, from the United States and Canada to Australia and New Zealand to mainland China, around to India, big parts of the Middle East, Africa. That's right, folks. The English or the British Empire was controlled by a tiny island. But at least Great Britain, if you will, was as big as, say, I don't know, the state of Maine. But Washington, D.C. is a fly speck on the map, yet it controls everything. Controls so much. But people are getting sick and tired of it. Think about it, right? It's like your whole body listening to what your big toe says. Why should the big toe tell the rest of the body what to do? In fact, I think Washington's more like the bunghole. Oh, yeah. Indeed. Now, more big, huge news that affects us here because it makes us think about it. In France, they've got their own BLM-style murders, looting, arson going on, right? Burn, loot, murder, BLM. They got their own version of it. All hell is broken loose in France because the police killed somebody when they pulled them over. Well, how about that, folks? I guess racism is big all over the world. It must be racist. Everything's racist. Anyways, France doesn't like all of this violence being done. So they have mobilized. They have called into action 40,000 police officers and special riot protection agents. 40,000 of them, folks. What surprises me here is that in the United States of America, Democrat governors and Democrat mayors never did that. You saw maybe 100 here and 50 there in each city. That's not 40,000. That's not 40,000. A couple of dozen American cities with 100 police per. It's like 1,000 or maybe 2,000 police officers. I'm glad that France is trying to maintain control and remove chaos. But still, folks, even 40,000 police officers, if the people of France believe that this was an egregious, outrageous crime, then there's no way the police could stop them. And in America, folks, there's no way the police could stop us. No way, not a chance. If we, you and I, the patriotic Americans, if we rose up out of all the jungles and came after them, we'd swallow them whole. We would swallow them whole and just totally overrun them. And this picture of Michelle Obama is driving me nuts. I can't stand that, man. Michelle Obama looks like she's just an ugly person, whatever. But she released her statement following the Supreme Court's ruling that affirmative action on college admissions is unconstitutional. Who cares what she thinks? I mean, really, why would we care? Now, what is important to note, number one, who gives a fuck about Michelle Obama? Number two, interestingly, just a few hours after this ruling, what has happened at the Supreme Court? Wouldn't you know it? A suspicious package has arrived just hours after the ruling that yet another socialist, Marxist, Democrat idea has been ousted. The idea that you have to give someone something because of their race. All of a sudden, a suspicious package that could be a bomb, could be a biological weapon. Yeah, so they evacuated the Supreme Court. I think they just needed an excuse to take the 4th of July weekend off early. And to make things even more interesting today, folks, I had to do this. I could not help it. Our good buddy, the fruitcake from Philadelphia, or I don't know where this fruitcake's actually from, but it rhymed kind of, or at least had a nice sound to it. The fruitcake from Philadelphia. Oh, the city of brotherly love. That's why that makes sense, because who better to get your brotherly love from than a tranny? Dylan Mulvaney has come out and is responding over the Bud Light controversy and criticized Budweiser because they didn't reach out to it, right? Why would they want to reach out to you? They'd be probably afraid of what they're going to touch, right? And Budweiser, folks, for its fuck-uppery, has fired more of their executives, hoping that that's going to fix the problem they have. Don't buy it for a second, folks. Budweiser can fire every executive in their corporation, and it's not going to change the woke attitude because they have a corporate goal, and that corporate goal is to make sure they have a diverse, inclusive corporate structure. Unbelievable. You know, and this whole thing about race is ridiculous. Ridiculous. You know, let me just give you this story and you can think about it, right? The mayor of New York City, Mayor Adams, he happens to be black. And an elderly woman at a town hall meeting decided she was going to talk to the mayor. And he got mad at her. He got rude with her. He said, "Don't treat someone like they're on a plantation that you own." And I thought, Mayor Adams, you dumb son of a bitch. Isn't the mayor a public servant? Now, no one's saying go put on a uniform and get me a bowl of cream of wheat or anything crazy like that, right? No one's making you serve them a bowl of salad or a bowl of soup, but you're a public servant. So when a constituent talks, or rather one of the sovereign people under whom you serve has a question, you should listen to them like they do own the New York City plantation. They all do. They're called the people. But that's how these people think. It doesn't matter. Everything is a race comment, and everything is, how dare you treat me a certain way. Folks, if you work for someone else, you're a servant. I work for you guys. Right? If I didn't, if I was like, hey, you guys, I don't want to do this anymore, but keep sending me your money, right? That's like Mayor Adams. Don't be talking to me like I'm on your plantation, but keep sending me your money. I want a paycheck. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. That's how stupid these people are. And finally, folks, back in the early 90s, there was this group called MAMBLA. It was Man and Boy Love Association. And it was a bunch of filthy, perverted, homosexual men who would meet in public libraries and discuss their love of little boys. MABLA, or MAMBLA. It was a 90s group. But get this, folks. The Radical Fairies. That's what the group is called, the Radical Fairies. They're a group that was founded by a man-boy love association Marxist. These are the people, folks, that say, we're coming for your children. That group right there. They started in the 90s, or at least they became publicly exposed, and thankfully not from the waist down. Publicly exposed to the world in the 90s. And here we are. Let's see, 90s, the aughts, and the teens. Yeah. 30 plus years later, they're pushing their agenda across the entire country and planet. Man-boy love association. Who says that grassroots perverted ideas can't take root and produce the most awful results? And it is awful, folks. Absolutely awful. Now, we want to go to, you guessed it. We're going to go to the inner circle and have your questions come up. I keep getting messages popping up, folks. It's crazy stuff. It's crazy. So let's do this. Ask John Live. So I got something from Name Redacted in an email here. It says this: earlier, John mentioned malaria in Florida and Texas. Remember that thing a few months ago where GMO mosquitoes were going to be released in Florida? I think Gates was part of that. No one cared at the time. I'll tell you what, people did care down in southern Florida. It was on one of those, probably one of those keys, the Florida Keys, I think, or down in those swamps south of, I think south of where that hurricane smacked the shit out of Florida. Everywhere south of there is basically one big fat swamp. But be that as it may, yeah, interesting that, yeah, they had these, well, you call them GMO mosquitoes, but yeah, genetically modified organisms. So I guess they are, because they were modified, changed. But all of a sudden, yeah, it's starting to spread, malaria. Once again, biogerm warfare. And wasn't it the Russian general, the biowarfare general from Russia, who said, hey, America's getting ready to release that on us. Beware. But yeah, interesting stuff, folks. Interesting stuff. Dangerous world we live in. It was pretty interesting. Today I was running around, out there. And a guy I was with, he's like, man, these mosquitoes are biting the shit out of me. And I thought, wow, the mosquitoes aren't biting me at all. In fact, I didn't even have a mosquito anywhere near me. Anywhere near me. And I thought, what the hell? What's going on here? Why don't the mosquitoes like me? If they decided they don't like someone unless they've been, injected with the Jim Jones juice. Anyways, I got this from a subscriber, and his name starts with the letter O. And he got this prideful recommendation. It says, show the world you're a welcoming business. Want to lead the way in showing you're open to everyone? Get to know these LGBTQ attributes and then add them to your business profile where relevant. It's a transgender safe place. Help people know your business is a comfortable space that fosters belonging by adding the transgender safe space attribute. Gender neutral restrooms. Show everyone that you're this kind of a person. LGBTQ friendly. Let people know that you're friendly. Are you fucking kidding me? You don't get special friendliness. You don't get any more friendliness than anyone else. You get the same friendly. We don't say less friendly, same friendly. I'll tell you what, though. Literally just up the road from where you see me right now, about 5 miles up the road, I was in a grocery store. And I walk around the corner, and there was a relatively attractive woman in a dress. And then right behind her was a relatively very unattractive man in a similar dress. He was about 6'6", also wearing makeup, and apparently was with the woman in a dress. And I thought, oh, they must be twins. Only that second girl that's so tall has a big, beautiful Adam's apple. And you just look at them. What are you supposed to do when you see a freak? Right, you're supposed to put a quarter on the counter and pay admission. They're freaks, right? Like I've seen a woman, not really, a man with a beard, wearing a dress, a mini skirt, and high heels. It's like, how am I supposed to react when I see that? The person is obviously fashion. Remember the fashion police? Like a lot of people would say that I'm fashion challenged. Nobody gets to fucking criticize me ever again for the rest of my life. No one can say shit. I mean, these so-called girls running around, men dressed as women, they have the most awful sense of fashion that I've ever seen when I see it in person. Go out on a weekend in a city or a vacation spot, and you're going to see some weirdos, right? It's kind of like the people of Walmart. Yeah, there's some badly dressed people at Walmart after 10 p.m. But good God, these people, they have no sense of fashion taste. It's like they went to the nearest thrift store and bought shit off of the sales rack, and then they wear that like they're just gonna go strut their stuff. Anyways, enough of my shit. Let's do some of your questions on top of what information has been provided already. Where do we want to go? What's on your mind? Jolene, Uman, what do we want to discuss in this Blue Cord Devil? Hey man, welcome back. Haven't heard from you in a few days. He said, did you hear about the burner phone paid for by Hunter? But Joe had and answered when some guy found the number. This came out today, and there was some question about when the number was dialed. Was it dialed back when Joe was vice president? Or was it dialed back or during this current administration? So yeah, some investigative journalist, reporter, or some such person got a hold of some paperwork that said Joe Biden had a satellite phone, a world satellite phone that he carried with him. And he claims that when he dialed that number, Joe Biden answered. He dialed that number and Joe Biden answered. Now, how would you know it was Joe Biden unless he said, this is Joe Biden? And then how do you know if that really was Joe Biden? So it was kind of interesting. Was it really Joe Biden? Now, if it was any other intelligent politician, I would say no, I would tend to not agree that that was who had answered it. But because Joe was such an imbecilic moron, I can imagine anyone calling and saying, hey, is this Joe Biden? And he's going to say, yeah, this is Joe Biden. Yeah, this is Joe. What kind of money you got for me? I'm sure he would admit it before he realized he shouldn't be talking to someone. I find it fascinating. I wonder if that story has legs. I wonder if the information is credible. But I'm also being extremely wary of accusations and information that is untrue, that's being generated and put out there in order for the media and the White House to poo-poo reports and go, remember when that guy said, and remember when that lady said. Yeah, see, those are examples of untruths out there. So nothing must be true, therefore, right? It is a logical fallacy technique used to discredit that which is truthful, to point to a couple examples and then say the rest must be false, right? That's called throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It is a fine example of a logical fallacy. Now, I'm going to give you another logical fallacy. In Democrat, their dumbass governor claimed that puberty blockers and hormones for child sex changes are basic medical decisions. Puberty blockers and hormones aren't decisions. Those are drugs. But let's just assume that he means the choice to use them are basic medical decisions. Since when, dumbass? It's just one question I have. Since when has been giving children drugs to stop their bodies from physiologically developing and giving children hormones that not only stop the development but change the development? They screw up their pituitary gland, their endocrine system, their growth system, probably fucks up their lymphatic system and their cardiovascular system. Who knows what the consequences are? We do know they're already jacked up in the head. But yeah, I mean, this guy claims, authority claims that they know what is a basic medical decision, right? Referring to authority, resting on authority. Yeah, that is the logical fallacies, or rather the illogic of the left, is becoming astoundingly, folks, unbelievable, astounding. I am shocked and stunned at these fucking people and their astounding illogic. Let's do this. Let's do another question, another comment, another thought. Thank you for that last one. And here we go again. We got name redacted. He says, Russians fight for their survival. NATO fights for reordering the global order and the cabal. Those are subcontractors, John. Those are subcontractors he's talking about, probably the the mercenaries. That's right, the private military contractors are subcontractors to the government. You bet. They're operating under contract, and I guess since I'm a general contractor, that call me General John. Anyways, here we go. Where do we go from here? The Russians are fighting for their lives, folks. Every country throughout Europe, every country throughout the Western world, every country is under attack. Their way of life, their morals, their traditions, their culture, they're all under attack. Russia doesn't quite share the idea that this is a good thing. Consequently, right, they're being attacked literally, and they feel they're fighting for their country. Does it matter? Let me ask this question. Does it matter if you are American or French, Italian or Dutch? Does it matter what country you are if your country is overrun by illegal immigrants? It doesn't matter. If you're overrun by illegal immigrants, they're going to fuck your country up. Does it matter if you're the United States, Spain, Austria, or the Netherlands? When your culture is being attacked for its roots, for being based in law and order. And if you acquiesce, what are you acquiescing to? See, Russia's asking these questions. If our culture is removed, what will it be replaced with? One that is transplanted by illegal immigrants, one that is, shall we say, infected with immorality, one that is has lawlessness and corruption as its means to an end? Is that what Russia wants to succumb to? So Russia sees this as a fight for survival. And it's looking to allies that say that their cultures are important as well, and that they want to maintain them and protect them from this, shall we say, destructive effort out there. And folks, we in the United States of America, whether you're at the RMZ or in the Marianas Islands, the Azores, it doesn't matter where you're at. If you're in the United States, we're under attack right now. And we're in far worse shape than Russia. We are being overrun by illegal immigrants. We are having our laws and our culture destroyed. We're having a bunch of fruitcakes infiltrate and destroy our educational system while indoctrinating our children to believe that they are awful and worthless, that their parents are awful and worthless, that their country is racist and worse. And those kids are going to grow up with those prejudices built into them. Phew. All right, let's move on if we shall. Where are we heading with the next thing? It's Orlando, and it's a good one because this is part one. He says, like I said earlier, at this point, I think we've exhausted all of our resources, and not enough people are willing to stand up and fight back. All we've got now is to keep getting prepared and fight when it's time. Well, I'll tell you what, Orlando, it's hard to disagree with that. It is. We, as Americans, need to focus on what we know for ourselves to be important. Getting prepared. And understanding that at some point, the lights are going out, the internet is being turned off, the food will stop coming, the water will stop flowing for many of us around the nation and around the world. In fact, I was listening to an immigrant today, a lawful, legal, licensed immigrant. And he asked me, he goes, hey, have you heard that we're going to have our internet shut off for a couple of months? And I said, gee whiz, no, tell me more. And he said, yeah, NASA says that we could lose the internet for a long time. I said, that sounds crazy. What do you think that means? And he goes, well, people would probably go nuts. And this guy was honest. He doesn't know my politics from a hole in the ground. He says, yeah, the people would go nuts. They would go crazy. You wouldn't be able to get money out of the bank. People would go to the banks and demand cash so that they could have cash and buy things. And I was like, wow. Boy, you've got to be some kind of prepper to want to do something and get prepared for that, right? And he was like, yeah, those preppers. I was like, yeah, those preppers, those crazy guys. They have a little bit of cash. They have a lot of food. They got a lot of bullets. They seem to know what's going on. They seem to be ready for it. But really, folks, this guy was shocked. You mean we could lose the internet for a couple of months? I was like, yeah, sounds like it. If NASA's saying it, it must be true because those are some smart guys, right? They managed to fool the entire world into thinking that we landed on the moon. The same characters, folks. The same characters in government, the same characters in NASA could tell you the moon is made of cheese and the world would believe it. Because the same people in the government and in NASA and in other government institutions, including the court system, will tell you that a man can get pregnant. They'll tell you, right, that you're allowed to pick your own gender and that that's believable. That's right. Folks, if you believe that you aren't the gender you were born with and that you can change it and that you can be gender fluid, I mean, just like that, force field, I'm now bulletproof. You have to believe me. Don't even bother firing your weapons because I'm bulletproof. Double force field. Right? I'm rubber, you're glue, bounces off me, sticks on you. And so you shoot me, you're shooting yourself, so you better not shoot me. I mean, these are the fucking fantasies these people tell themselves. And the government's an authority figure. So if the government says the internet's going out, it's not because of what? I mean, all of a sudden a passing asteroid's going to hit us or a solar flare is going to strike. Well, what about aliens? Don't you think that, don't you think that if we're going to lose the internet, the aliens would have something to do with that? I mean, if they can fly gazillions of miles, light years across the universe, don't you think that they would have the technology to either steer a comet towards Earth or steer a comet into the sun? Don't you think they would be able to stop things from happening that are bad because they've got that much power? Now, I don't know if you guys do a whole lot of scientific inquiry, but what they said is that basically for, to travel at the speed of light, take a large spacecraft, something like the size of, let's just pick a spacecraft. How about the Eldridge? Let's use the Eldridge, USS Eldridge as an example, to take a craft that size and then have the energy to travel faster than the speed of light. It's like as much energy as our sun produces, just to push a small pebble across the universe, to open a wormhole and do that, right? Well, these people apparently, these beings apparently have that, and we're supposed to believe that about them. I still don't believe it, folks. I'm going to say this. I still believe that any civilization that is such high tech enough to fly all the way across the universe to consume as much energy as the sun produces, that when they finally get here, they would know better and be able to land their spaceship without fucking crashing them, without them falling apart and smoking like a 1982 Dodge Dart. But that's how we go, right? That's what we got. All right. Let's do some more. Cottage Farm is back in the house. Bam, bam, bam. She says removal of affirmative action will hurt poor old white folk. Critical race theory, DEI, ESG, all in for colored folk, but not the poor little white guy. This is going to get interesting. I just think that all of these social programs need to be eliminated, and things will come to a natural balance. That's what happens. See, anytime pressure is put one way or another, it causes everyone else to have to adjust to it. Right? Like it or not, love it or not, by doing affirmative action and pushing the balance over to affect or help this group, everyone else adjusts to that. They let it go. Everything's going to find its natural balance. It's natural balance. So I say get rid of affirmative action. Quit favoring one group or another. Quit favoring rich over poor, because the rich are favored over poor. So yeah, poor old white folks, they're going to be fucked up again. Everyone is going to get screwed around and jerked around. The system is not designed to benefit anyone other than those who pay to have the system benefit them. Right? Who does affirmative action really help? It helps politicians. That's who it helps. That is exactly who it helps. Do you think all of the minorities that have been allowed in have been allowed into colleges to get degrees, do you think they make really good decisions? Do you think corporations really want to hire them? Or is it kind of the diversity, inclusion, and equity crowd, right? I like to call it the DIE crowd, not the DEI, but the DIE, because it's failed to die, right? This diversity, inclusion, and equity, right? And boy, folks, I read, because Clarence Thomas joined with Chief Justice John Roberts, the traitorous piece of shit. But Clarence Thomas decided he would write a supporting letter in favor of the decision to get rid of affirmative action. And the scathing criticism coming against him, a Black American man, for getting rid of affirmative action. They called him every name in the book, folks. Uncle Tom would be a compliment at this point. Wow. All discrimination is wrong as far as I'm concerned. Merit-based systems are fair. They're absolutely fair. Right? But get this. If you were to take a wrecking ball and you swing it all the way to one side and you hold it there, it takes a lot of energy to hold it there to make it work. Right? That's what affirmative action is. But when you release it, it's going to swing across the other side and smash into shit. But after a while, it's going to stop swinging. It's going to find balance, a resting place. That resting place, folks, should be, right, life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness for all. Truth, justice, and equality for all. Not fairness based on some political belief system, some ideology. All right, Jolie Newman, how many more of these questions do we got? Oh my God, a two-man. He said one bad accident on a major highway clogged the crap out of all the side roads this afternoon, making it ridiculous to get around. And it wasn't even rush hour. Confirmed my thoughts about how no one's bugging out anywhere or even getting home easily if something major suddenly happens. Be prepared to hunker down and bug in. I like it, folks. Let's see, hunker down, bug in. How about bunker down, bugger in? That's right, folks. Jokes. Yeah, this idea of bugging out. You've got to be ahead of the curve. Now, something like, say, China invades San Francisco. You're not getting anywhere out of San Francisco. You're not getting anywhere out of Sacramento. People are going to be running for their lives. But people in Denver, people in Dallas, they can leave the cities probably in a little more of a calm fashion if you're a prepper and you want to head out to your exciting survival bungalow like this one here. But yeah, if anything bad happens in your area, forget it. Forget it. Yeah, in fact, I realized that in traffic today. I thought, it doesn't matter how big my tires are or how powerful my diesel engine is. I'm not going to be able to just ram people out of my way, car after car after car. It's just not going to work. Not going to work. Plus, people probably wouldn't like me much after that. Anyways, be that as it may, folks. Be that as it may, here we are. And it's happening. We're learning all the time. Ooh, man, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, traffic congestion, forget it. You need to have a get back bag. If you're out and about, you're not going to hike 50 miles to your bug out bunker location. You need enough water, food, and shall we say self-defense items to get back to your house. I really think that your primary residence should be your primary bunker site, unless, right, you absolutely know that you'll be able to get out early. So maybe having a plan that, and it should, depending on circumstances and what and where is happening, should determine when and if you even need to leave. But as important as that is, I think people need to practice. Okay, you're going to bug out. How long will it take you to get home at any given point? How long will it take you to load all your shit up that you need to bug out with? And do you think you're actually going to make it? Even just rush hour traffic, which everyone wants to avoid. Remember that rush hour traffic, everyone's trying to avoid it, and it's still fucked up. How bad would it be when everybody doesn't give a shit about rush hour traffic and they're just trying to get out of town? Okay, we've come to the end of the show. Jolene, are we done? Ooman, are we done? Everyone except Charles says we're done. So let's do it, Charles. He says, unfortunately, I think it's going to take some very hard times to make us great again. Good men are not harmless men. Good men are men who know what they are capable of and control the darkness. Well, let's just start with darkness, Charles. When the lights go out, you can't see. You don't know what's going on. You don't know whether to go left or right. You don't know if the person standing in front of you is the enemy or not. When shit hits the fan and it goes Mad Max, martial law, craziness, lights out, internet down, you don't know whether to go left or right, and you don't know if the person standing in front of you is good or bad. But if you're prepared and you're a good man, at least you have some inkling and some preparation, which is why we're here every day talking about what's going on, so we get a better idea of who is out there, who is left, who is right, and if the person standing in front of you is an enemy or an ally. Good men know what they're capable of. That's because you train, you practice, you think. Therefore, you is. And hard times are upon us. And they're going to have to get a lot harder. And I think we're going to start seeing people fall by the wayside. They're going to give up and they're going to let the bad guys run their lives. They're going to give up and be dominated. They're going to give up and give in. Good men and women will not. In fact, they'll become stronger for it. Stronger for it. They'll realize that, yes, they're truly being tested. Their strength, their endurance, their heart, their discipline, and their faith. So don't ever give up your faith. Chance favors the prepared mind. Aren't you glad you are a prepper? I'll see you tomorrow for Zero Dark 30 and then the Friday Free for All. Godspeed. Semper Fi.